Welcome to the Chompcast, the podcast that brings the crew of Sword Chomp together to discuss our lives as friends and video games and everything in between. My name is Morgan Barnes, and I am joined by my good friends and fellow co-hosts, the crew of Sword Chomp, Joshua Fowler.
I have a friend. That's nice.
You're a friend.
Yeah.
Shay Layton.
I used my Witcher senses to get here today.
Already on the Witcher talk. And Anthony Fisher.
Hello, friends.
We're all friendly today. It's all friendly. And as Shay was alluding to, we have an awesome show today, mostly centered around The Witcher 3. An older game, but one that was so, impactful in our medium that we wanted to kind of go back and give it its due so we could give it the full Chompcast treatment. And we're going to, all of our other nerdy tangents that we'll get into on this show as well should be a lot of fun. But I want to catch up with the crew, see how everybody's doing this week, what they've been up to. Shay.
Yes.
Mr. Witcher Sense, how are you doing, sir?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. I had a good week. I've had realistically a good 3 weeks of playing Witcher 3, being incredibly addicted. I've managed to break myself away from it here and there to play some other things. I have this slight story. So I was working, and there's this man and woman who came into work, and they're like, "Oh, so we just got married. We want to consolidate our gaming library down because we have a lot of duplicates." I was like, "Oh, nice." So they just brought in just heaps of rare stuff, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." And one of the things they brought in was a game called Darkspire for the DS, which I had never heard of, and I was super intrigued, so I picked it up, and I managed to play that for about a good 10 hours. And it's pretty interesting. As I was texting you guys this past few days, it's basically a D&D style dungeon crawler. It feels very similar to a game called Shining in the Darkness that came out for the Sega Genesis. That was a prequel to my favorite game, Shining Force. But back on that, it's like one of those typical games where you pick a class out of 4 and a race, and you just dungeon crawl. And you do some little missions here and there. You get some quests from the guild. So it was pretty fun. Dungeon crawlers aren't my favorite game, but it was done by Atlas. The dialogue is pretty quirky at times in a good way, and I think it's a pretty solid game. The music was, typical 8-bit, 16-bit style music, and it's a lot of fun. It just, I've played those games before, and I kind of feel like at this point in the game, unless you really like that style, it's kind of a dated game, and it's one that came out in 2010. So
yeah, it reminds me of I was just looking at some screenshots. Maybe Josh can probably help me with the name, but it looks like those DS games where you would make maps, but the combat style looks Etrian Odyssey. I think it's
yeah. I played that one, but I didn't play Darkspire. But yeah, it was a similar sort of thing. Just kind of old school dungeon crawler, D&D style sort of a deal. But,
yeah.
Which
nice.
kind of works on the DS, since you've got the whole screen down there to draw your maps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think a few companies tried that, and I don't think the market was really there for it for the most part, but I think they're good nonetheless. So
they are. They're good for a little part-time game. It was a nice break from The Witcher 3 because that game is so immersive and just you never, for me, whenever I pick it up, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to play an hour. And I'm 6 hours later. And I'm like, where the fuck did my life go today? But, there are a few issues with Darkspire. One of the things, and this is the only thing I'll mention about the game, specifically, one of the things I had a really big issue with is in order to, if one of your party members got poisoned, specifically your thief, and he wasn't the first party member, you would have to rearrange your entire party just to use an item like an antidote on him to make him unpoisoned or cured, essentially, I guess. And it was very arduous every time he got poisoned, because he got poisoned at least 10 times, to rearrange my party just to cure him and then rearrange my party again. It's kind of a pain in the ass. But one of the things I like is the game kind of forces you to learn its mechanics on the fly, and it's fairly intuitive. It's not like I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. It's pretty intuitive. So if you anyone's interested in dungeon crawlers, check it out. But other than that, that's pretty much how my week has been.
You've been working on the kind of working on the logo behind the scenes, so we should.
Spoiler alert.
We'll be able to talk about that a little bit down the road, but that's cool. We've been doing a lot of logo work. Getting communication going. So, well, I'm excited to hear you and Josh duke it out a little bit over The Witcher. Josh is here despite everything in his body probably not wanting to talk about The Witcher today. He has joined us, so thank you, Josh.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I figured someone needed to be here to remind you exactly how bad The Witcher was.
Wow. That's fighting talk right off the bat.
I'm muting my seething right now.
But it should be fun to get Josh's perspective. But you've been pretty quiet this week, Josh. I mean, what have you been? I mean, I know you kind of stopped playing The Witcher like a week ago because you weren't feeling it, and we'll talk about that later. But what have you been up to this week?
Yeah, well, I've had family in town the last couple of days, so I've not gotten a lot of gaming at all, unfortunately, in the last little bit. We've been playing The Witcher with you guys here and there for the last few weeks, but then this last week just didn't have any time for gaming, trying to get stuff done, get the house clean for family to come in and not try to take my children away. You know, stuff like that.
Life stuff, important stuff.
Exactly. The big things.
Yeah, those happen. Those weeks happen. Well, glad you are here. We have a lot of cool things to talk about. Not to mention, I'm excited to hear you spar with Shay about The Witcher. And I've known you for a long time, Josh. You always have some really interesting perspective on things that sometimes go against the grain. So that should be fun. And Fish had some technical difficulties before the show, but he is here. He made it.
Yep, I made it here. Oh my gosh, that sucked. I couldn't log into my account, but yeah, I just had to make a new account and force my way into this podcast, I guess.
You force your way in here. I'm glad you're here, man. I didn't hear from you a lot this week. This morning you messaged me. You were like, yeah, I caught this massive fish in Final Fantasy 15. And I was like, oh, okay. Fish is getting into the fishing in Final Fantasy, and that made my heart happy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fishing in that game is so addictive and fun. Just with like the beautiful graphics of looking out on each fishing spot that you get to come across it just feels magical to me. It feels like a Final Fantasy game with fishing, and I don't think there's ever been a fishing game in Final Fantasy, to my knowledge at least, that's as well done as it is in this game. So I'm just having a lot of blasts like exploring the different fishing spots that are out there and trying to find new ones and finding new lures to bait in some new fish that I haven't caught yet. And
and you caught the merc. So me and Josh were having this battle back and forth on Instagram for a while for our listeners, where like Josh caught this really epic fish, which I actually found out later is part of a quest called the Liege of the Lake, where you catch a legendary fish with Gladios, and then I went and caught the final fish for the Nightmare Angler quest, which is this massive thing. It's called a merc grouper. It's just all four of your party members have to jump in the water to hold it. And then fish, I think that's the same one you caught last night because you said so. Not to suck the joy out of your catch, but
no, you did. You sucked the joy straight out of it.
I caught one of those already. I bet mine's big. No, we should compare. Let's compare merc groupers.
Let's put them side by side. No, actually, you know what? That's a weird fish because like I haven't done the quest for it, I guess, and I didn't know it was for a quest. But that fish, you can see it swimming, but it's not shown on the radar. It's like a little bit below the surface. But I noticed it whenever I was fishing, like that first area where you get to start fishing, and I never thought to actually catch them. And I actually have to use like I guess a sinker bait, and it sinks down, and that's when he actually strikes. And when I saw that
Did
he
you
was
say?
actually
Did you
pulling,
just say sinker bait? Sinker bait? I don't know.
yeah,
Some sort of
sinker,
fisherman out there is gonna rip it. That just sounds wrong. A sinker bait. Anyways,
a
go ahead.
sinker, yeah,
Is it
like I'm pretty sure that's
is it a
in.
crankbait? Is it? I'm gonna look it up. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, it sunk it down. It actually has some weight to it, so the grouper actually goes for it because it's a little bit more deeper than the surface where the rest of the fish hang out, and he actually goes for it. So yeah, it's and I had a struggle with him because like first three tries I tried to catch him, he was just so difficult. Like reeling him in is it's painfully slow. It was like I actually recorded it. It was 11 minutes of me trying to reel in this big ass fish to actually land him. 11 minutes. That's just fucking crazy. But the whole time I was just like on edge trying to pull in this fish.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. It's so tense. Like, and your line, like, I think when I pulled them in, I had barely any line left. So I was like, oh my, because if the fishing in that game is really complex, and if you if you get greedy, your line will start to tear, and you have to really just be very patient.
Yeah. Yeah, you lose like some of your durability in your fishing line, and there's times where like the fish will jump out of the water, and you actually have to hit a prompt. Usually it's like up, left, or right. Um, And if you don't hit that, they just break the line and they get away with your lure and everything. So it's very disheartening for that to happen. And they could also run out your durability on your string, and that could go out. And what else? Like there's so many little mechanics to fishing in that game that just surprises me that they actually fleshed out the fishing in that game to where it's actually fun and it feels like RPG style fishing.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's
I'm just
amazing.
having so much fun with that.
There's cool little like things like the one of the fishing poles is called the butterfly edge, which I think is one of the swords that Cloud used in Final Fantasy VII. So there's a lot of
I
like
think that's your first upgrade on the gun sword
the butterfly.
in Final Fantasy
Oh,
VIII. I think it's the first upgrade. It might
is
be
it
later
the
than that.
butterfly? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of like cool little throwback things to the older Final Fantasies and in the fishing gear too. But yeah, I'm the same way. Fish. I went back and went up to level 10. Just got my fish on this week because there's so many just weird ass fish you can catch, like bluegill with giant wings on them and shit.
Yeah.
But you can see once you get to level 10, you can see the bigger fish in the game. They'll like the mer grouper and some of the other the biggest fish you can find. They'll show up on your radar once you hit level 10. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was level 9 when I caught that Merc Grouper, and I don't think
But
I could have done it any other way. Had to use like Dragon's Beard line, like the strongest durability that I had for it, and
God, that's a great
uh,
name for a fishing line, isn't it? Dragon's beard. But
hell yeah.
Dragon's beard. But anyways, yeah, glad you're here, Fish. Glad you're getting your fish on. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because I know you didn't get to play The Witcher, so you're gonna be kind of observing our Witcher talk. But
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, you know what? I played just the opening of it, but I didn't have time to actually delve into it.
Oh, you got it?
Uh,
You got The Witcher?
I did, but
Ah,
I think I was too late because yeah, I only got maybe past. I just got into the story, which like they started heading off on the road, and I fought some ghouls, and that's kind of saved a guy from like getting attacked by a griffin, and I asked for gold from his ass.
okay. Well, so Fish is leading us right into it. Fish, that's such a Fish thing to do, guys. He'll play like 1 hour of the game the week we're going to talk about it. But next week he's going to have all these things to say about The Witcher, and we're going to be like, too late, Fish. It's
Yep,
too late.
yep. That's when you guys are like, "Oh, we're playing this game. Fuck you, fish." And I'm just like,
I'll
"Come
still
on,
be
guys."
playing Witcher. I'll still be playing Witcher.
Oh,
Let's be
yeah.
honest.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a new format now. In the intros, you can talk about whatever you want. It's a beautiful new world.
Oh fuck! I played Walking Dead season 3 too. I forgot to talk about that.
Did you? How much of it did you play?
I played both episodes.
Oh wow, are you digging it?
Dude, it's so good. So good.
Did
Like
was that
it
the one that
rendered
Josh? Go ahead, go ahead.
it, it rendered like there's some parts in there that are completely fucked up, and even if you see them coming,